The stars had always been there, twinkling silently above Earth. For centuries, humanity looked up at them and wondered if they were alone in the universe. At first, people dreamed of meeting alien life, imagining friendly beings who would share knowledge and help solve the world's problems. But as time went on, those dreams faded into doubt. Humans sent signals into space radio waves, pictures, even music, but no one answered. The silence grew louder with each passing year. By the 250th anniversary of humanity's first attempt to contact extraterrestrial life, most people had stopped caring. Governments cut funding for space programs, and scientists shifted their focus to more immediate concerns like climate change and disease. Only a handful of dreamers still believed that someone might be out there listening. One of those dreamers was Ethan Cole. Ethan worked at a small observatory in the middle of the Arizona desert. It wasn't glamorous or well-funded, but it gave him access to some of the best telescopes left behind after the global disinterest in space exploration. He spent his nights scanning the skies, searching for anything unusual, a flicker of light, an odd pattern. Anything that hinted at intelligent life beyond Earth. His colleagues thought he was wasting his time, but Ethan didn't care, he felt. Drawn to the stars, as though they held secrets meant just for him. Grace Monroe often joined Ethan during these late-night sessions. Unlike Ethan, Grace wasn't an astrophysicist. She was a linguist, someone who studied languages. Her specialty was ancient scripts, codes buried in forgotten texts. She found her way to the observatory almost by accident when a mutual friend introduced her to Ethan. They struck up an unlikely partnership. While Ethan searched for signals, Grace helped analyze any data that seemed structured or intentional. Together, they made a good team, one driven by logic, the other by curiosity. On a chilly October evening, everything changed. Ethan was adjusting the telescope array, fine-tuning its settings to pick up faint signals from deep space. Grace sat nearby, sipping coffee and flipping through notes on her laptop. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows of the tiny control room. Neither of them expected what happened next. A sudden spike appeared on the monitor, burst of energy unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It wasn't random static or interference from Earth-based sources. This signal pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Each pulse carried layers of information encoded within it. Ethan froze, staring at the screen. "Grace," he said softly, his voice trembling. "You need to see this." Grace hurried over, setting her mug down with a clatter. She leaned closer, her eyes narrowing as she examined the data. "It's not natural," she murmured. "This is deliberate. Someone or something is sending us a message." For hours they worked together, recording and analyzing every detail of the signal. It repeated itself every few minutes, growing stronger with each cycle. As they dug deeper, Grace noticed patterns emerging. Certain sequences matched linguistic structures she'd studied before, patterns used in human communication. But other parts were completely alien, defying any known framework. "This is incredible," Grace whispered, her hands shaking as she typed furiously. "We can decode this. We could be looking at the first real evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence." Ethan nodded, though his mind raced with questions. Who had sent the signal? Where did it come from? And why now, after 250 years of silence? Word of their discovery spread quickly. By morning, news outlets around the world were buzzing about the mysterious signal from space. Scientists flocked to the observatory, eager to verify the findings. Government officials arrived, demanding answers. Suddenly, Ethan and Grace found themselves at the center of a whirlwind they hadn't anticipated. Not everyone reacted with excitement. Some feared the implications of contacting an unknown species. What if the signal wasn't friendly? Others worried about the potential consequences of revealing Earth's location to advanced civilizations. Conspiracy theories sprang up overnight, fueled by paranoia and misinformation. Despite the chaos, Ethan and Grace remained focused. They knew they had stumbled onto something extraordinary, something that could change the course of human history. With the help of international experts, they began decoding the message piece by piece. It was slow, painstaking work, but every breakthrough brought them closer to understanding. One day, while reviewing the latest batch of data, Grace made a startling discovery. Hidden within the signal were coordinates numbers pointing to a specific location in the galaxy. When plotted on a star map, the destination lay far beyond the reach of current human technology. Yet the precision of the numbers suggested urgency, as though whoever sent the message wanted humanity to follow. "They're inviting us," Grace said, her voice filled with awe. "Or challenging us. Either way, they want us to go there." Ethan stared at the map, his heart pounding. The idea of traveling to another star system seemed impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. Someone or something was waiting for them. As weeks turned into months, the pressure mounted. Nations argued over how to respond. Should humanity send a probe to investigate? Build a spacecraft capable of carrying humans? Or do nothing and hope the signal disappeared on its own? Ethan and Grace watched the debates unfold. Frustrated by the lack of consensus, amidst the turmoil, a man named Daniel Hayes entered their lives. Sent by the government to oversee their research, Daniel claimed to support their efforts. But there was something unsettling about him, his overly polite demeanor. The way he asked too many questions without offering answers. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel had his own agenda. Still, progress continued. Slowly but surely, pieces of the puzzle came together. The message revealed fragments of what appeared to be a language, rich with meaning yet impenetrable. Without further study, Grace poured all her energy into deciphering it, determined to unlock its secrets. Meanwhile, Ethan kept monitoring the skies, hoping for more clues. Then one night the signal changed. Instead of repeating the same patterns, it delivered a new message, a single phrase transmitted over and over: "Do not come unarmed." The word sent chills down Ethan's spine. Was it a warning, a threat, or simply advice? Grace frowned. As she translated the phrase, "Whoever sent this knows we're considering going," she said, "and they're telling us to prepare." "But prepare for what?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Are they hostile? Friendly? We don't know enough to make that call." Grace shook her head. "No, we don't. But one thing's clear, they've been watching us. Maybe for a long time." The realization hung heavy in the air. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, but it also wasn't safe. Every decision mattered now, every action carrying weight far beyond Earth's borders. Ethan and Grace exchanged uneasy glances, knowing they stood on the brink of something unprecedented. Outside, the stars shone brightly, indifferent to the drama unfolding below. For 250 years, Earth had stayed silent. Now the silence was broken, and nothing would ever be the same again. The discovery of the signal from space turned Ethan Cole and Grace Monroe's quiet lives upside down. What had once been a small, almost secretive project at the observatory became the center of global attention. Scientists, politicians, and journalists descended on the tiny facility in Arizona, eager to get a piece of the action. Cameras flashed, microphones were shoved into their faces, and questions came fast and furious. Ethan and Grace did their best to stay focused, but the pressure was overwhelming. Ethan felt like he was living in a dream or maybe a nightmare. One moment he was just another astronomer scanning the skies for anomalies. The next, he was being called a hero, a pioneer, a symbol of humanity's hope for the future. Grace handled the spotlight better than he did, though she too struggled with the weight of expectations. She spent most of her time hunched over her laptop, decoding fragments of the alien message, while trying to ignore the noise around her. The message itself was far more complex than anyone had anticipated. It wasn't just a simple greeting or a random burst of energy. It was layered with information, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Each new piece revealed something fascinating, a sequence that resembled mathematical equations, another that hinted at advanced physics, and yet another that seemed to describe a location in the galaxy. Grace worked tirelessly, piecing together the fragments and translating them into terms humans could understand. One evening, after weeks of relentless effort, Grace made a breakthrough. She called Ethan over, her voice trembling with excitement. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "Look at its coordinates. They're giving us directions to somewhere out there." Ethan leaned closer, his eyes widening as he studied the numbers. The destination lay in a distant star system, far beyond the reach of current human technology. Even with the fastest spacecraft ever built, it would take centuries to reach. Yet the precision of the coordinates left no room for doubt. Whoever sent the message wanted humanity to know exactly where to go. "They're inviting us," Grace said softly, her mind racing with possibilities. Or maybe they're testing us. Either way, they expect us to respond. But responding wasn't as simple as firing up a rocket and heading out into the unknown. The implications were staggering. It's the signal of friendly gesture, an opportunity for humanity to join a larger cosmic community. Was it a trap, luring Earth into danger? No one could say for sure. As news of the coordinates spread, debates erupted around the world. Governments clashed over how to proceed. Some argued that humanity should seize the chance to explore, building a spacecraft capable of reaching the distant star system. Others believed it was too risky, warning that contacting an advanced alien civilization could lead to disaster. Conspiracy theories flourished, with some claiming the signal was a hoax, others insisting it was a divine sign, and still others suggesting it was a test created by rival nations. Amidst the chaos, Ethan and Grace tried to remain objective. They knew the stakes were high, but they also believed the signal was real and important. For the first time in human history, Earth wasn't alone. Whether the aliens were benevolent or hostile, ignoring them wasn't an option. Daniel Hayes, the government liaison assigned to oversee their work, grew increasingly involved. At first, he seemed supportive, offering resources and guidance. But as time went on, his behavior became more troubling. He asked probing questions about the message, requested copies of all their data, and insisted on attending every meeting. His presence made Ethan uneasy, though he couldn't quite put his finger on why. Grace noticed it too. He's hiding something, she said one night as they reviewed the latest updates. "I don't trust him," Ethan nodded. "Neither do I, but we don't have much choice. If we want to keep working on this, we have to play along for now." Despite Daniel's interference, progress continued. With the help of international teams of scientists, Ethan and Grace began unraveling more of the message. They discovered patterns that suggested the aliens communicated through a combination of mathematics, imagery, and sound. Some parts of the transmission even included what appeared to be warning cryptic phrases that hinted at dangers ahead. "Do not come unarmed" was the most unsettling. Grace translated it carefully, double-checking her work to ensure accuracy. When she confirmed the meaning, she shared it with Ethan. "They're telling us to prepare," she said. "But prepare for what?" Ethan shook his head. "That's the million-dollar question. Are they warning us about themselves, or is there something else out there we need to worry about?" The ambiguity weighed heavily on both of them. Every new revelation brought more questions than answers. Yet they pressed on, driven by a mix of curiosity and responsibility. This wasn't just about satisfying scientific curiosity, it was about deciding the fate of humanity. As months passed, tensions between nations escalated. Countries competed to claim ownership of the project, each wanting to control how humanity responded to the alien signal. Military leaders pushed for the development of weapons, arguing that Earth needed to defend itself if the aliens turned out to be hostile. Scientists countered that aggression would only provoke conflict, urging patience and diplomacy instead. Caught in the middle, Ethan and Grace struggled to maintain their focus. They attended endless meetings, fielded constant demands for updates, and fought to protect the integrity of their research. It was exhausting, but they refused to give up. They believed the signal represented an opportunity, not just to meet alien life, but to unite humanity in a common cause. Then, one day, Daniel dropped a bombshell. He arrived at the observatory unannounced, carrying a thick folder filled with classified documents. "You need to see this," he said, his expression grim. Ethan and Grace exchanged wary glances before opening the folder. Inside were plans for a secret military operation tied to the alien signal. According to the documents, several nations had already begun developing countermeasures weapons designed to neutralize any potential threat from the aliens. Worse, they intended to use Voyager Dawn, the probe being built to investigate the coordinates, as a delivery system. Grace stared at the papers in disbelief. "This can't be happening," she muttered. "We're supposed to be reaching out, not preparing for war." Daniel shrugged. "Orders are orders. You didn't think we'd go into this blind, did you?" Ethan clenched his fists, anger bubbling. Inside him, this isn't what we signed up for. We're scientists, not soldiers. "I'm just following instructions," Daniel replied coolly. "If you have a problem with it, take it up with someone higher up the chain." The encounter left Ethan and Grace shaken. They realized they were pawns in a much larger game, manipulated by forces beyond their control. The dream of peaceful contact with alien life seemed further away than ever. That night, under the vast desert sky, they sat together in silence. The stars twinkled above, indifferent to the drama unfolding below. Ethan broke the quiet first. "What if we're wrong?" he asked. "What if trusting them is a mistake?" Grace sighed. "And what if not trusting them is worse?" "We can't let fear dictate our choices. Not this time." Ethan nodded slowly. He knew she was right. Fear had ruled humanity for too long, dividing people and holding them back. If they gave in to it now, they might miss the chance of a lifetime. "We'll figure it out," Grace said firmly. "Together." For the first time in days, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Whatever happened next, they wouldn't face it alone. The decision to build a spacecraft came after weeks of heated arguments, endless meetings, and countless sleepless nights. Humanity had no choice but to act. The signal from space wasn't going away, and the coordinates pointed to a destination. That demanded answers. Governments around the world finally agreed to work together, pooling resources and expertise to create something never attempted before. A probe capable of traveling to another star system. Ethan Cole and Grace Monroe were chosen to lead the project, though neither of them felt prepared for the responsibility. Ethan, who had spent most of his life staring at stars through telescopes, now found himself designing a mission to visit one. Grace, whose specialty was ancient languages, suddenly became the key figure in decoding instructions meant for machines, rather than humans. It was overwhelming, but they didn't have time to doubt themselves. The clock was ticking. The spacecraft, named Voyager Dawn, was unlike anything humanity had ever built. Sleek and futuristic, it carried advanced technology. Designed to withstand the harsh conditions of deep space, its propulsion system relied on experimental physics, pushing the limits of what was possible. Onboard computers were equipped with artificial intelligence, programmed to adapt to unexpected challenges. And at its core was a communication module, built to interact with the mysterious aliens who had sent the signal. Leading the launch team was Olivia Reed. It's an astronaut known for her calm under pressure and sharp problem-solving skills. Olivia had always dreamed of exploring space, but she never imagined her first mission would involve contacting alien life. She threw herself into the work, studying every detail of Voyager Dawn and running simulations to prepare for any scenario. Despite her confidence, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the whole operation. Olivia's suspicions grew when she stumbled across classified documents during a routine inspection. Hidden deep within the probe's programming was a failsafe, indirective buried so well that only someone with top-level clearance could access it. The failsafe gave Earth the ability to destroy the alien structure if things went wrong. In theory, it was a safeguard, a way to protect humanity from potential threats. But to Olivia, it felt like betrayal. She confronted Ethan and Grace late one night, pulling them aside in the observatory where they still worked tirelessly. "You need to see this," she said, her voice low but urgent. She pulled out her tablet and showed them the files. Both Ethan and Grace stared at the screen in stunned silence. "They're planning for war," Olivia said bitterly. "This isn't about exploration or learning. It's about control." Ethan rubbed his temples, frustration bubbling inside him. "Can't let them turn this into a weapon. This is supposed to be about connection, not conflict." Grace nodded, her mind racing. If the aliens find out we're coming armed, it could ruin everything. They might see us as a threat. "What do you suggest we do?" Olivia asked. "Go against orders? Risk getting shut down?" Ethan looked at both women, determination hardening his expression. "Yes," he said firmly. We reprogrammed the probe. We send our own message, one that shows we're here to learn, not fight. It was a risky plan, but none of them could think of another option. Working in secret, they began altering Voyager Dawn systems. They rewrote parts of the AI code to emphasize peaceful intentions and removed the failsafe entirely. It took days of careful work sneaking around guards and dodging surveillance cameras. Daniel Hayes, the government liaison, seemed suspicious of their late-night activities. But he couldn't prove anything. Finally, the day of the launch arrived. Thousands gathered at the facility, watching as Voyager Dawn stood poised on the launch pad, gleaming under the sun. Reporters broadcast live to millions around the world, capturing every moment. For the first time in decades, humanity felt united not by fear, but by hope. As the countdown began, Ethan, Grace, and Olivia stood together, their hearts pounding. Each of them knew the risks involved. If their changes were discovered, they'd face severe consequences. But they also knew they were doing the right thing for Earth, for the aliens, for the future. When the engines roared to life and Voyager Dawn lifted off, cheers erupted from the crowd. The spacecraft climbed higher and higher, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind. Within minutes, it disappeared into the vastness of space, carrying humanity's hope, and fears with it, back on the ground. Ethan and Grace returned to the observatory to monitor the probe's journey. Olivia stayed at Mission Control, overseeing communications and tracking progress. For weeks, everything went smoothly. Voyager Dawn transmitted regular updates, sending back data about the emptiness of space and the challenges of long-distance travel. Slowly but surely, it moved closer to the mysterious coordinates. But as the months passed, cracks began to show. Nations started bickering again, each wanting more control over the mission. Military leaders pushed for updates on the failsafe, unaware it had been disabled. Scientists argued over how to interpret the alien message, with some insisting the warnings were proof of hostility. Meanwhile, public opinion shifted. With many people growing impatient for results, Ethan and Grace tried to stay focused, but the stress wore on them. Late one night, while reviewing data from Voyager Dawn, Grace noticed something strange. The probe's trajectory had shifted slightly, veering off course. At first she thought it might be a glitch, but further analysis revealed something more alarming. The change wasn't random. Someone or something was interfering with the spacecraft. She called Ethan immediately. "Something's wrong," she said, her voice tight with worry. "The probe isn't following its programmed path anymore." Ethan rushed to her side, scanning the data. "You saying it's being guided?" "I don't know," Grace admitted. "But it feels intentional." They alerted Olivia, who confirmed their findings. Whatever was happening, it wasn't part of the original plan. The question was who or what was responsible. Days turned into weeks as Voyager Dawn continued its altered course. The interference grew stronger, guiding the spacecraft toward a specific location. Finally, it reached its destination, a massive structure orbiting a dying star. The object pulsed with energy, radiating both beauty and menace. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. As Voyager Dawn approached, the aliens made contact. Their message came not in words but in images and sensations, flooding the probe's sensors with overwhelming information. Ethan, Grace, and Olivia watched in awe as the data streamed in. The aliens identified themselves as the Zinari, an ancient civilization that had observed Earth for centuries. Their tone was calm but firm, filled with both curiosity and caution. "We are not your enemies," the message read, "but you are unprepared." The words sent shockwaves through the team. What did the Zinari mean by unprepared? Were they referring to Earth's technology, its society, or something else entirely? Ethan and Grace scrambled to decode the rest of the transmission, searching for clues. Meanwhile, tensions on Earth reached a boiling point. Governments accused each other of sabotage, claiming the altered trajectory proved someone was manipulating the mission. Military leaders demanded immediate action, urging the team to activate the failsafe only to discover it was gone. Daniel confronted Ethan and Grace about the missing directive. They admitted what they'd done. "You had no right Daniel shouted, his face red with anger. "You've jeopardized everything." "We did what we thought was best," Ethan shot back. "If you wanted war, you should have said so from the start." Grace stepped between them, her voice steady. "This isn't about us anymore. It's about humanity's future. Let's focus on that." Reluctantly, Daniel backed down, though his glare promised trouble later. For now, all eyes were on Voyager, Dawn, and the Zalwyn. As the days passed, the aliens grew more insistent. They offered knowledge and technology capable of transforming Earth, but only if certain conditions were met. The requirements were staggering. Dismantle all weapons of mass destruction. Prioritize cooperation over competition, and commit to preserving the planet's environment. It was a tall order, one that exposed humanity's deepest flaws. Ethan and Grace struggled to explain the demands to world leaders, many of whom balked at the idea of giving up power. Some argued that the Zenari were testing humanity, seeing if it deserved a place among the stars. Others believed it was a trick, a way to weaken Earth before an attack. Through it all, Olivia remained steadfast. "We have to try," she said. During a heated meeting, "If we don't, we'll never know what we're capable of." Her words resonated with Ethan and Grace, reminding them why they had taken the risk in the first place. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it had the potential to grow if given the chance. As Voyager Dawn hovered near the alien structure, waiting for Earth's response, the three of them stood together once more, gazing at the stars. The weight of the decision rested on their shoulders, but they faced it with courage. Whatever happened next, they knew they had done everything they could to give humanity a fighting chance. And so, Earth waited, holding its breath, ready to take the next step into the unknown. The days following the Zenari's message were filled with chaos and uncertainty. Humanity had been given a choice, but it wasn't an easy one. The aliens' demands were clear: dismantle weapons of mass destruction, prioritize cooperation over competition, and commit to healing Earth's environment. In exchange, they promised knowledge and technology that could transform human society, advancements in medicine, energy, and sustainability beyond anything Earth had ever seen. Yet the conditions came with a warning. Failure to comply would leave humanity isolated, perhaps forever. Ethan Cole and Grace Monroe found themselves at the center of a global storm. Governments around the world argued over how to respond. Some leaders saw the Zenari's offer as a lifeline, a chance to fix centuries of mistakes and build a better future. Others viewed it as a threat, believing the aliens were trying to weaken Earth before an inevitable attack. Military factions pushed for aggressive action, insisting that humanity couldn't afford to appear vulnerable. Meanwhile, protests erupted. In cities worldwide, with people divided between hope and fear, Grace spent long hours decoding every piece of information. Transmitted by Voyager Dawn, the Zenari communicated through a mix of images, sounds, and mathematical patterns, each layer revealing more about their civilization. They described themselves as ancient beings who had watched Earth from afar, observing its wars, achievements, and struggles. Their tone was neither hostile nor overly friendly. It was measured, almost clinical. Grace felt a strange sense of awe as she pieced together their story, but also unease. There was something distant about them, as though they viewed humanity not as equals but as students who needed guidance. Ethan, on the other hand, focused on managing the political fallout. He attended endless meetings with world leaders, scientists, and military officials, trying to bridge the gap between conflicting viewpoints. It was exhausting work, made worse by Daniel Hayes, the government liaison whose presence loomed like a shadow. Daniel had grown increasingly hostile since discovering Ethan and Grace's tampering with Voyager Dawn. He accused them of jeopardizing national security and demanded tighter control over the mission. His threats hung in the air, unspoken but unmistakable. Olivia Reed stayed at Mission Control, monitoring Voyager Dawn's interactions with the alien structure. The spacecraft hovered near the massive object, which pulsed with light and energy. Through its sensors, humanity caught glimpses of the Zenari's technology-towering machines, glowing pathways, and intricate designs that defied understanding. Olivia felt both wonder and dread as she watched the data stream in. She knew they were standing on the edge of something monumental, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't ready. One evening, after another grueling day of debates, Ethan and Grace met privately in the observatory. The room was dimly lit, the hum of computers filling the silence. Grace sat at her laptop, scrolling through notes while Ethan paced back and forth. "We're running out of time," he said, finally breaking the quiet. "If we don't make a decision soon, the Zenari will lose patience." "I know," Grace replied, her voice weary. "But agreeing to their terms isn't just flipping a switch. Disarming weapons, restructuring economies, it'll take years, maybe decades." Added grimly, "They'll see it as surrender." Grace nodded, her expression troubled. "What if this is exactly what the Zenari expect? A test to see if we can put aside our differences and work together? Or a way to weed out civilizations they think are too dangerous to exist?" Ethan countered. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert from Voyager Dawn. Olivia called them immediately, her voice tense. "Something's happening." She said the Zenari are sending another transmission. Ethan and Grace rushed to Mission Control, where a team of scientists was already analyzing the new data. This time, the message was direct and unambiguous. It showed images of Earth's past wars, environmental destruction, suffering, and then contrasted them with visions of a brighter future. Advanced cities powered by clean energy, cures for diseases, lush green landscapes restored to health. The message ended with a single phrase, "Prove your worth." The words sparked heated discussions among world leaders. Some interpreted them as a challenge, urging humanity to rise to the occasion. Others saw them as a thinly veiled threat, proof that the Zenari wouldn't hesitate to abandon Earth if it failed to meet their standards. Public opinion shifted again, with many people calling for unity, while others demanded resistance. Amidst the turmoil, Grace uncovered a detail that sent chills down her spine. Buried within the latest transmission was a hidden layer, a series of symbols that didn't match any part of the Zenari's previous messages. At first glance, they seemed random, but Grace recognized their structure. They resembled warnings she'd studied in ancient human texts, often used to signal impending danger. She shared her findings with Ethan, who listened intently. "You think they're hiding something?" he asked. "I don't know," Grace admitted. "But it feels like they're not telling us everything." "What if their offer comes with strings attached? What if helping us serves their own agenda?" Ethan frowned, considering the implications. "You mean like using us as tools or experiments?" "Exactly," Grace said. "We've been so focused on what they can give us that we haven't stopped to ask what they want in return." Their suspicions deepened when Olivia noticed unusual activity near the alien structure. Sensors detected movements inside the object, patterns that suggested preparation for something large-scale. Was the Zenari getting ready to leave? To attack? Or to welcome humanity into their fold? No one could say for sure as tensions mounted. Ethan, Grace, and Olivia decided to act. They knew they couldn't trust governments or militaries to handle the situation responsibly. Instead, they crafted a plan to send a new message to the Zenari One, written entirely by them, without interference from anyone else. The message acknowledged humanity's flaws but expressed a genuine desire to learn and grow. It emphasized peace, curiosity, and humility, qualities they hoped would resonate with the aliens. Reprogramming Voyager Dawn was risky. Any deviation from official protocols could trigger retaliation from Earth's authorities or worse, provoke the Zenari. But they believed it was worth the gamble. Working late into the night, they encrypted the message and transmitted it to the alien structure. Then they waited. Hours passed with no response. Back on Earth, panic spread as rumors circulated about sabotage. Daniel confronted Ethan and Grace, accusing them of going rogue. "You've gone too far this time," he snapped. "This isn't your call to make. It's not yours either," Ethan shot back. "You're treating this like a war. It's not. It's a chance for humanity to prove we're better than you think." Daniel's face darkened, but before he could respond, Mission Control erupted in commotion. The Zenari had replied. The transmission. came not in words, but in actions. The alien structure shifted, opening portals that revealed glimpses of other worlds and civilizations. Some were thriving, advanced societies. Others were barren wastelands, remnants of cultures that had destroyed themselves. Through these windows, humanity saw both possibilities and consequences. Gaining perspective on its place in the universe, the Zenari granted access to limited technology, enough to heal Earth's environment and alleviate suffering, but insufficient. To fuel further conflict, they issued a final warning: survival is earned, not given. With that, the connection ceased, leaving humanity to grapple with the weight of its newfound responsibilities. Ethan, Grace, and Olivia stood together under the night sky, watching as the last traces of the alien signal faded. Though uncertainty loomed, they felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity had taken its first step toward becoming part of something greater. But the journey ahead would test every fiber of their resolve. The aftermath of the Zenari's message left Earth reeling. For days, humanity struggled to process what had happened. The portals opened by the alien structure revealed glimpses of other worlds, some thriving, others ruined on, forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about their own planet. Leaders debated how to move forward, while ordinary citizens wrestled with feelings of awe, fear, and responsibility. It was clear that life would never be the same again. Ethan Cole, Grace, Monroe, and Olivia Reed found themselves at the center of this global reckoning. Their decision to send an independent message to the Zenari had sparked outrage among some factions, but earned cautious praise from others. Governments accused them of overstepping their authority, while activists hailed them as heroes who had acted in humanity's best interest. Amidst the chaos, Ethan, Grace, and Olivia remained focused on one goal: ensuring that Earth didn't squander the opportunity presented by the aliens. Grace spent most of her time analyzing the limited technology provided by the Zenari. It came in the form of a small device, no bigger than a suitcase, yet it contained unimaginable power. Initial tests showed it could purify polluted air, restore damaged ecosystems, and generate clean energy. However, using it required understanding its complex mechanisms, a task that fell squarely on Grace's shoulders. She worked tirelessly, collaborating with scientists from around the world to unlock its secrets. Ethan, meanwhile, dealt with the political fallout. World leaders gathered for an emergency summit to discuss the Zenari's demands. Some nations agreed to begin dismantling weapons of mass destruction, seeing it as a necessary step toward earning the aliens' trust. Others refused, arguing that disarming would leave them vulnerable. Military officials pushed back hardest, insisting that Earth needed to prepare for potential conflict with the Zenari or other extraterrestrial threats. Daniel Hayes, the government liaison, became increasingly hostile toward Ethan and Grace. He saw their actions as reckless and unaccountable, undermining years of careful planning. "You've put us all at risk," he told them during one heated confrontation. "If the Zenari decide we're not worth helping, we'll have no one to blame but you." Ethan met his glare head-on. "Did what we thought was right." "Wanted war? You should have said so from the start." Grace stepped in before the argument escalated further. "This isn't about us anymore," she said firmly. "It's about humanity's future. Let's focus on that." Reluctantly, Daniel backed down, though his distrust lingered. Behind closed doors, he began working to regain control of the mission, rallying allies who shared his concerns. Ethan and Grace knew they couldn't count on his support, but they also couldn't afford to ignore him completely. Olivia stayed at Mission Control, monitoring Voyager Dawn and the alien structure. Though the Zenari had ceased direct communication, their presence loomed large. The massive object continued to orbit the dying star, pulsing with energy. Occasionally it emitted bursts of light that seemed almost alive. Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that the Zenari were watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. One night, while reviewing data from the spacecraft, Olivia noticed something unusual. Sensors detected faint signals emanating from the alien structure, patterns that matched parts of the original message sent to Earth. At first, she thought it might be interference, but closer analysis revealed something more significant. The signals appeared to be instructions, guiding Voyager Dawn toward specific points within the structure. She called Ethan and Grace immediately. "I think they're trying to show us something," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "Maybe letting us explore the structure ourselves." Ethan frowned, skeptical. "Why now? And why through the probe instead of contacting us directly?" "Maybe they're testing us," Grace suggested, "seeing if we can figure it out on our own." Whatever the reason, they couldn't ignore the opportunity. Working together, they programmed Voyager Dawn to follow the signals, sending it deeper into the alien structure. As the spacecraft moved, cameras captured stunning images of glowing corridors, intricate machinery, and vast chambers filled with strange artifacts. Each discovery fueled speculation about the Zenari's true nature and intentions, but not everyone was pleased with the developments. Military leaders grew alarmed, viewing the exploration as a potential threat. They demanded tighter oversight of the mission. Pushing for armed spacecraft to accompany Voyager Dawn, scientists countered that aggression would only provoke the Zenari, urging patience and diplomacy instead. Tensions reached a breaking point when classified documents surfaced, revealing plans for a covert operation. A group of nations had secretly developed a fleet of drones designed to infiltrate the alien structure and gather intelligence. The project, codenamed Operation Sentinel, aimed to ensure Earth's dominance in any future negotiations with the Zenari or prepare for conflict if talks failed. Ethan and Grace learned about the operation through Olivia, who stumbled across the files during a routine check. Shocked and angered, they confronted Daniel, demanding answers. "How could you keep this from us?" Ethan asked, his voice shaking with fury. Daniel shrugged, his expression unreadable. "Orders are orders. You didn't think we'd go into this blind, did you?" "This isn't about defense, it's about control," Grace snapped. "You're risking everything we've worked for." Daniel's tone hardened. "And what exactly have you achieved? A few scraps of technology and vague promises? We need to protect ourselves." The argument ended without resolution, leaving Ethan and Grace more determined than ever to stop the operation. They reached out to trusted colleagues, sharing their concerns and rallying support. Together, they drafted a public statement condemning Operation Sentinel. Emphasizing the importance of peaceful cooperation with the Zenari, their efforts paid off. When news of the secret plan broke, protests erupted worldwide. People took to the streets calling for transparency and unity. Public pressure forced governments to reconsider their approach, shelving the operation indefinitely. For the first time in weeks, Ethan, Grace, and Olivia felt a glimmer of hope as Voyager Dawn continued its journey through the alien structure. It uncovered evidence that changed everything. Hidden within the artifacts were records of the Zenari's history, not just their achievements but their failures. Images showed civilizations they had encountered in the past, many of which had perished due to greed, arrogance, or short-sightedness. The Zenari themselves were not immune to mistakes. Ancient ruins hinted at wars fought and lessons learned. Grace pieced together fragments of the story, her heart heavy with realization. "They're not just testing us," she said one evening. Sharing her findings with Ethan and Olivia, "They're warning us, showing us what happens when species refuse to change." Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing the implications. "So they're giving us a choice to repeat history or break the cycle. And hoping we choose wisely," Olivia added quietly. The weight of the decision rested heavily on their shoulders. Humanity stood at a crossroads, with the power to shape its destiny, for better or worse. Ethan, Grace, and Olivia knew they couldn't make the choice alone. But they could guide the conversation, reminding others of the stakes involved. In the days that followed, they worked tirelessly to spread awareness. Through interviews, conferences, and social media, they emphasized the importance of humility, cooperation, and vision. "This isn't just about survival," Ethan said during one speech. "It's about becoming something greater than we are." Slowly but surely, attitudes began to shift. Nations started taking steps toward disarmament, inspired by the promise of a brighter future. Communities came together to address environmental challenges, driven by the knowledge that Earth's fate depended on their actions. Even skeptics found themselves swayed by the overwhelming evidence of the Xenari's goodwill. Yet the road ahead remained uncertain. The Xenari hadn't promised easy answers, nor had they offered guarantees. Chance to prove humanity's worth. Whether Earth succeeded or failed would depend on the choices made in the months and years to come. Underneath the vast desert sky, Ethan, Grace, and Olivia stood together, gazing at the stars. The alien structure still pulsed faintly in the distance, a reminder of the unknown awaiting humanity. They didn't have all the answers, but they had each other, and that was enough for now. For the first time in centuries, Earth wasn't silent. It was speaking, listening, and learning. Though the journey was far from over, possibilities stretched endlessly before them, like the infinite expanse of space above. Months turned into years as humanity adjusted to its new reality. The Xenari's message had changed everything, but the real work was only beginning. Earth was no longer just a planet isolated in space. It was part of something bigger. A vast universe filled with possibilities and dangers. Ethan Cole, Grace Monroe, and Olivia Reed found themselves at the heart of this transformation, guiding humanity through uncharted territory. The alien technology provided by the Xenari proved to be both a blessing and a challenge. Its ability to heal ecosystems and generate clean energy offered solutions to some of Earth's most pressing problems. Deserts began to bloom, polluted rivers ran clear again, and cities powered by renewable resources became the norm. Yet mastering the device required constant effort. Grace worked tirelessly alongside teams of scientists, unraveling its complexities and teaching others how to use it responsibly. Every breakthrough brought hope, but also questions about what limits should be placed on such power. Ethan focused on fostering global cooperation. He traveled the world, meeting with leaders and communities to encourage collaboration. Slowly, nations began dismantling their weapons of mass destruction, recognizing that peace was essential for survival. Trade agreements shifted towards sustainability, and education systems were revamped to emphasize teamwork and innovation. Despite resistance from some corners, progress was undeniable. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it was learning. Oliva stayed, connected to Voyager Dawn, which continued exploring the alien structure. The spacecraft uncovered more artifacts and records, each one deepening humanity's understanding of the Xenari. Through these discoveries, people learned that the aliens weren't infallible. They had faced struggles similar to Earth's own. Wars over resources, environmental collapse, and internal divisions had once threatened their civilization. But instead of succumbing to despair, the Xenari had chosen to evolve, embracing unity and wisdom. Their example inspired many on Earth to do the same. Still, not everyone shared this optimism. Military factions remained wary, convinced that trusting the Xenari was reckless. Some argued that the aliens' generosity masked ulterior motives, perhaps even plans to conquer Earth once it became dependent on their technology. Others feared that humanity's newfound reliance on alien help would stifle independent growth. These voices grew louder as tensions simmered beneath the surface. Daniel Hayes emerged as one of the loudest critics. Once a shadowy figure lurking, in the background, he now openly opposed Ethan and Grace, accusing them of naivety. "We're putting all our eggs in one basket," he said during a televised debate. "What happens if the Xenari turn on us? Or worse, abandon us?" Grace countered calmly, her voice steady. "They've given us a chance to save ourselves. It's up to us to take it." Ethan added, "Fear won't protect us. Only action will."
Oh.
Their words resonated with many, but doubt lingered. Even among those who supported the changes, there was uncertainty about whether humanity could truly rise to meet the Xenari's expectations. Then came the day when Voyager Dawn detected something extraordinary. Deep within the alien structure, the spacecraft found a chamber unlike any other. Its walls shimmered with light, and at its center stood a pedestal holding a crystalline object. Sensors indicated it was alive, pulsing with energy that matched the rhythm of Earth's rotation. When the probe transmitted images back to Mission Control, Ethan, Grace, and Olivia stared in awe. "This is it," Grace whispered. "This must be why they brought us here." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. "But what is it? A gift? A test? Maybe both," Olivia suggested. "Whatever it is, we need to find out." With great care, they instructed Voyager Dawn to retrieve the object. As the spacecraft carried it away, the alien structure began to shift. Corridors dimmed, portals closed, and the massive construct started drifting further into space. It was as though the Zanari had fulfilled their purpose and were now moving on. When the crystalline object arrived on Earth, it sparked both wonder and fear. Scientists studied it closely, discovering that it contained vast amounts of information blueprints for advanced technologies, insights into cosmic phenomena, and even glimpses of distant civilizations. But accessing the data required solving intricate puzzles. Forcing humanity to think creatively and work together, Grace led the effort to decode the crystal, collaborating with experts from every field imaginable. Mathematicians, linguists, engineers, and philosophers joined forces, sharing ideas and building on each other's successes. Each solution unlocked new layers of knowledge, revealing tools that could revolutionize medicine, transportation, and communication. Yet the process wasn't easy. Mistakes led to setbacks, and disagreements sometimes slowed progress. Still, the collective determination never wavered. Meanwhile, Ethan addressed growing concerns about dependency. Some worried that humanity was losing its identity, becoming too reliant on alien gifts. To counter this, he emphasized the importance of balance. "The Zanari gave us a foundation," he explained during a global broadcast, "but it's up to us to build upon it. Can't let their help define us. We have to define ourselves." His words struck a chord, inspiring communities to innovate in their own ways. Farmers developed sustainable practices using lessons from the crystal, while artists created works inspired by visions of the cosmos. Schools encouraged students to dream big, reminding them that humanity's potential was limitless. As time passed, the fear of betrayal faded. The Zanari hadn't returned, nor had they sent additional messages. Their absence left a void, but also a sense of freedom. Humanity realized it couldn't wait for guidance, it had to forge its own path. Years later, Earth bore little resemblance to the fractured planet it once was. Cities thrived without pollution, borders blurred as cultures merged, and conflicts diminished as people embraced common goals. The stars above seemed closer than ever, beckoning humanity to explore. Ethan, Grace, and Olivia stood together one evening, gazing at the night sky. They were older now, their hair streaked with gray, but their spirits remained youthful. Behind them, a crowd gathered to celebrate the launch of humanity's first interstellar spacecraft, a vessel built using designs adapted from the Zanari's crystal. It's named Horizon. It symbolized hope, curiosity, and resilience. "We did it," Grace said softly, her eyes shining with tears. "Against all odds, we made it." Ethan smiled, squeezing her shoulder. "Not just us. Everyone played a part." Olivia looked at the rocket, pride swelling in her chest. "And this is just the beginning." As Horizon soared into the heavens, cheers erupted across the globe. For centuries, humanity had dreamed of reaching the stars. Now, thanks to courage, cooperation, and a little help from the Zanari, that dream was finally coming true. In the silence that followed, Ethan thought about the journey ahead. There would be challenges, risks, and sacrifices. But humanity had proven it could adapt, grow, and endure. Whatever lay beyond Earth's borders, the species was ready to face it together. Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, witnesses to a new chapter in human history. Earth had stayed silent for 250 years. Then at Spokane, everything shifted.